Welcome to Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Being a fireman, father, veteran, husband, world record holder, and Ironman, he brings stories of experience to impact your life while challenging you to live it. What do you want from your life? Why do you want it? Are you willing to go through the challenges to get there? If you have the courage to take that first step, let this podcast be the catalyst to start your fire while you bring the resilience to make it continue to burn. Our lives are made up of moments called right nows. So let's get started. Forged in the Fires podcast with your host, Fireman Rob, begins now.
All right, welcome back to Forged in the Fires podcast. I'm your host, Fireman Rob. Today I have a guest. You're going to want to take a piece of paper and a pen out because this gentleman has done most things and most things very, very well. He launched the world's largest growth hacking agency. He also is the CEO of NFT technology, one of the first companies focusing on NFTs going public. Mario, it is so great to have you on the show today.
And he said, get a notepad and a pen. No. Let them get 3 people. Ask their family, their friends, go around them. 3, 4 notepads and pens and put me on speaker. 1 notepad, 1 pen is not enough, man.
I love that. I love that. It's about a network. It's about the community. That's it really comes down to being resilient. I mean, I look at your success stories and it is quite amazing. And I want to go back to like how you started your success trip because it doesn't just fall into your lap, right?
Yeah, well, it'd be good if it did. So the most important thing for success, and it's not me giving my opinion or not even my experience. It's also my experience happened to be. But there's a great video by Bill Gross. I had an interview earlier today, and I was talking about it. And if you go on Google, you write Bill Gross, Gross, TED. It's a TED speech by Bill Gross.
Okay.
It's an 8-minute TED speech. One of the best videos any business person, anyone in life could listen to. There is a time for everything. Okay. There's a time when you should look for. We all know there's a time when you should fool around and have fun with girls, party, etc. There's a time when you should settle down. There's a time when you should have kids. It's not for everyone. But generally speaking, most people don't have kids at 18. They're usually going out and having fun, generally speaking.
Right.
Now, the same applies in business. Last year, in the midst of COVID, launching a restaurant, you could succeed. But it's unlikely. Restaurants are officially closed. You're not allowed to open a restaurant. And many went broke. But in 2020, if you started a business in the crypto space, and I'm deep in crypto, even though I'm originally an e-com guy, that's where I made most of my money, I'm very deep in crypto. And if you started a business in crypto in 2020, you'd be laughing right now because obviously crypto blew up. Or if you started a business in remote work, the timing would have been perfect. So Bill Gross did research. He's like, what's the most commonality across people that are successful? Businesses that are successful. It's not the team. It's not the product. It's not the business plan. It's not the funding. All are important. They play a big role because building a business is like a puzzle. There's not one piece. It's multiple pieces in the right place at the right time. But the number one thing was actually timing. Like YouTube didn't actually launch as YouTube. It launched as a dating website and pivoted to YouTube because the timing was right. But Bill Gross actually launched a copy of YouTube a few years before YouTube, but it was too early. The timing wasn't there yet, and it failed miserably. So timing is everything, and that's for me. That's what I learned in my business. I just, with my first business in e-com, I got to 8 figures in 2 years out of nothing. I was selling blenders and juicers. The business still exists today, sells in over 30 countries, but it started with nothing. But the blender and juicer market was booming back then, so that gave me a head. That made it more likely that I'm going to succeed. So timing doesn't mean I will succeed. Not everyone that sold blenders and juicers back then succeeded. Right. But it gave me an edge because I was selling a product where the timing was right, and then I had to get everything else right to get to what people consider success.
And you didn't do it an easy way. You started with $300 in your bank account, and you went door to door. And I love on your website it says, "Do good, do it consistently, and be patient." Was that something that you started with when you did business, or is that something that you learned throughout your time doing business?
Learned it. I changed that like a few months ago. It's very new, that sentence, because I kept getting asked the question, what should I do? How can I be successful? So I'm a big believer in the power of compounding. Warren Buffett is, most people that are successful are fans of the power of compounding. So if you do something consistently, it adds up. And when it adds up, the numbers are insane. So that's where this came from. But when I started, I was the opposite. When I started my first business, I was very impatient, which is not bad. Impatient action, patient results. Be patient expecting the results, but be impatient in terms of taking action. So I was very impatient in terms of taking action. I moved like crazy, but I also wanted quick results. Now I'm happy to delay gratification. Marshmallow experiment. The people that delay gratification are more likely to succeed in life since childhood. From childhood, there's an experiment done where, do you know the marshmallow experiment?
I don't.
So they got kids and they gave them one marshmallow and they said, hey, they put it in front of them. And they said, hey, if you eat this now, good, enjoy. But if you don't, and if you wait for me, so they said, don't eat it now, I prefer you don't, because if you wait for me, I'll come back after a specific period of time and I'll give you an extra one, and then you end up eating two. So you can either eat one now or eat two in half an hour or whatever.
Right.
The kids that ate the marshmallow, the first one, without waiting for the second one, they studied them over time, all of them. They studied all the kids. And the kid that ate the first one and didn't delay gratification to get the second one, they did the same in life. Result, they were more unhappy, less wealthy, less successful, and more likely to divorce, etc. So all the things that people link with failure, is a pretty rough word, but things that are considered failure doesn't mean your life is failure. Like if you marry someone and you divorce, technically speaking, that's a failed divorce. It's failed marriage. It is what it is. But it doesn't mean that the divorce itself is failure. So I don't want people to take it the wrong way. But they just had a less fulfilling life, to just try to be politically correct. So delaying gratification is one of the most powerful things in business and life, by far. I delayed my gratification I started enjoying life at age 26, man. I didn't have any girl, nothing, no clubbing, nothing till 26. I delayed the hell out of gratification a lot. Even now, I did it so much that I literally I don't watch Netflix, I don't watch movies, I never have drinks with friends, I don't have friends, all I do is work, dance, and sometimes I like to have fun with girls. These are the only things I do, zero else, literally nothing else. So, man, that's in a nutshell the things that I learned. But definitely not the things that I knew back when I started. I made a lot of mistakes when I started, but I got timing right.
Right. And I love that when you talk about your compass, you can work as hard as you want. You can grind and you can go every day. But like you said, if your compass is off, it's over. You got to work smarter.
Yeah. So that, look, everyone loves to talk about working hard. The most common characteristics among successful people is conscientiousness. The most common characteristic, which represents four things. The two less important things are being organized and being a perfectionist. They're actually good things for an entrepreneur. Now, obviously, perfectionism taken too far is bad. Same as organization. Balance is everything. But these are two important characteristics. But the two other characteristics that are significantly more important are calibrating your compass, doing the right thing, and working hard. That's it.
Right.
Now, calibrating your compass is the first step, because you've got to work hard, heading the right destination, taking the right path, or at least the better path. There's going to be a lot of paths, but trying to find the most optimal one. Because if I go now to Africa and start digging for gold, non-stop, every day, work 3 times what I'm working now. I work a lot now, but let's say I still increase it. I'm doing something that's going to probably make me a millionaire. If I was looking at that's what I was in life. So, but if I do what I'm doing now, which is focusing on things like now, I'm taking NFT tech public, and that's a crypto company. Crypto over the next 10 years is an industry that's pretty lucrative, same as the internet over the last 30 years. So that's me calibrating my compass.
Right. I love it. And you can go to wearegrowthhackers.com and find out a lot more. When I want to go back to kind of some of the businesses, because, a lot of people will look at your success and they'll see multiple successes, and you're talking about delayed gratification. And they're like, well, all he had was gratification. He had success throughout, but they don't get to see the back end of that where you didn't have success right in the beginning. Talk to me more about some of these businesses. Like, once you have success in one business, how hard was it to go back into that in essence, that valley, and start that entrepreneurial ship again?
In 2017, I was 2017, my only source of revenue was Fruity, the business that I first started in 2012, 2013. That's it. Okay. Everything else didn't work. The events business was doing well, and I closed it anyway. The others were just too small to even mention. That was it. Then IBC started, my first venture outside of e-com, which was my crypto consulting firm. It blew up. I'm like, fuck yeah. Now, sorry for cursing.
Oh, you're fine. That's exciting.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, perfect. IBC's killing it. Money's coming in. I'm back in action. And now I've divested away from just e-com, and now I'm also B2B. So I put my eggs in more baskets, so mitigate my risk. Then a few months after that, IBC was scammed. The person I used to be very private. Now if you Google me, there's a million things. Before, my business partner, I'm at his penthouse now in Miami, but he's not here. His name's Alexander. He took 8 months vetting me before bringing me as a partner at his law firm in 2018, because I was so private. My privacy was actually abused by one of the managers at one of my companies. I wanted to make him the CEO. He took advantage of my privacy and pretended that he's the owner, and then took a lot of clients, scammed the company essentially. We're suing him now for millions. He's now, a few days ago, his case is looking bad, so he's asking for a settlement. So we had good progress, which is good for us. So he scammed me. So IBC and Fruity got scammed by a supplier called Jutian. There's also a legal case against them where we signed an agreement that they'll protect us if there's any patent infringement. We said, hey, your product looks like it infringes a patent. They're like, hey, don't worry. We'll sign an agreement that it doesn't, and if it does, we'll protect you legally. We're like, cool, okay. And then they pretended to protect us, but they didn't, and they just disappeared. So that was both in the same year. The first one happened while IBC was blowing up. I'm like, shit, we might need to consider maybe closing down Fruity. My team's like, hey, should we consider closing it down? Now Fruity's still here and really healthy. But back then, we were considering closing down Fruity. And then, but at least IBC, I'm like, fuck, thank God I launched IBC. I'm like, I'm doing well now. They're another business. And then IBC gets scammed. And then when it talks about IBC closing it down, and Fruity starts stabilizing IBC, in the same year, my two revenue sources were talking about closing them down. That same year, I got a massive headache one day. I was going to do a podcast. That's when I kicked off my personal brand. It's not long after I got scammed. And I never get headaches. I'm really healthy. Like I obsess over health and biohacking. So I never get headaches, ever. I get a really strong headache to an extent where I couldn't even walk much. It's really bad. And now I'm doing an interview, and the headache's just getting worse and worse. I do a photo shoot, it's just getting worse. And then I said, look, fuck, I'm going to go to the hospital. I can't even close my eyes, nothing. And then I go there, and then they do a scan, CT scan, like, hey, look fine, it must be migraine. I have migraines. Can I do an MRI? I live with them, they did an MRI, they found a tumor, and it's bleeding. So that's why I had a headache. So, and then like, you need urgent surgery. Turns out I didn't need surgery, and I didn't do surgery, and I'm fine. But back then I didn't know. So I'm like, I get up next day, and I'm like, fuck, okay. So I got two of my companies struggling. Then one got scammed, the other one is recovering after the supplier screwed it. And I have something in my head that I can have surgery to remove a tumor. And I was dealing with a personal crisis, like a really bad crisis, worse than those three that I've never talked about. So that's all in the same couple of months. And then I remember my uncle who manages one of my companies in Australia. His name is Francois, incredible man. He's like, Mario, I have a question. I've never asked you that question. Like, how do you get up every morning with all this? And I never thought about the question. But my answer was I'm a pretty logical person. Yeah. So very emotional. I have a lot of emotions, but
I like it.
Thankfully, I've got good emotional control. So logic always wins. So I got him. I'm like, good question. I never thought of it. But like, what other choice do I have?
Yeah.
Like genuinely, because I know that if I sit there and just feel like shit, nothing's going to move forward. So what choice do I have? Then to wake up and just keep doing what I'm meant to do. And here I am today. Both the businesses that almost went bankrupt are doing really well. And I've got a whole bunch of others. And one of them is going public. My personal brand's blowing up. I've a growth hacking agency. We are growth hackers that you mentioned. It's like the fire behind our companies. And it's been an incredible year. Incredible year this year. And the last couple of years have been good as well. So, to answer your question in brief, and I think every entrepreneur will have a similar story. Most of them will. Some will dramatize it. Some don't need to. But it's never a straight line. It's never a smooth road. There's some heavy bumps. And, and you have to also understand, man, like something that people forget, that some people go on those bumps and actually the wheel breaks. They don't get out of it. Like why am I speaking? If I didn't get out of it, podcasts will unlikely get me as a speaker. Why? Because people have success stories, not failures. There's a podcast that once launched a few years ago, I remember, and it was focused on interviewing purely people that failed, so we can learn from people's failures. Yeah. The podcast failed. No one wanted to hear failures. They only wanted to hear successes.
Right.
So while you hear my story, and then you realize you just got to work hard to get out of it, mitigate your risk, because there's so many, I think people don't appreciate, and I have to learn it the hard way. There's 7 billion people on the planet. It's billion, it's a crazy number. Like the human brain can't imagine 7 billion, can't even imagine a million people. It's not designed to imagine such big numbers. It's just a massive number. So Elon Musk almost went bankrupt in 2008. Steve Jobs almost went bankrupt back in the 90s, I think. And then Bill Gates bailed him out. There's a whole bunch of similar examples of very successful people. Elon Musk, Amazon CEO, almost went bankrupt in 2001. The business was struggling badly. They were talking about potential bankruptcy. So these are the ones that survived, and that's why we all idolize them. But you know how many Elon Musks there are out there in those 7 billion people that actually did not get out of it? If Elon Musk didn't get that loan from whoever it is, Buffett or whoever, in 08, we wouldn't be talking to him. So the conclusion is for the audience is that try to mitigate your risk and don't fall for my mistake. If you start reaching success, I'm looking out of my business partner who's planning house with me for a few days in Miami. I'm looking around me. There's a million buildings. A few years ago when I looked, I'm like, this building is higher. Why? How can I get into the higher building? Or
I love that.
I saw a plane earlier. How can I get on that plane? Why don't I have a plane? But that was a very, it's good to have motivation, but that was a dangerous place to be because I was looking at the 0.0001% that was above me. And not realizing that I should be grateful because I'm above 99.999% of the world. So why am I saying this, man? To end it there, I don't want to go too long, but why am I saying this? Because the audience needs to understand that you're already better than most of the people out there. So while it's good to have motivation to push yourself harder, it's also better to understand, look at your arms, look at your legs, you have them. Would you let me cut one of your arms for $1 billion? If you're smart, you'd say no. If you're stupid, you'd say yes. So you're probably going to say no. That means you're a billionaire. And there's people that don't have an arm that would consider you a much wealthier person. So that's my 2 cents, man. Just mitigate your risk, value what you have, aim high, but don't forget that you're already in a pretty good place. And it's a stoic way of thinking.
That's a great perspective.
It is. It changed when I almost went bankrupt.
Right. And I love that you mentioned emotional control because that's one of the things I love to talk about. And it's something that people a lot of times take for granted and don't understand how to implement it. They think, oh yeah, because I can understand my emotions. I have emotional control. And it's like, no, it's more than that. And you talked about it from the standpoint of, kind of like when you're looking at that plane and you're going, yeah, I want to be up on that. Well, I don't have a plane, but you have that emotional control to not let that emotion override the idea of where you are now or what you can do. Is that something that you hone every single day, or is that something that innately you are?
I hone it, like just last night. So I flew from LA to Miami. I fly commercial, I do take first class so I can sleep because I have problems sleeping on the plane. So and for me, the ROI is that getting some sleep is worth it more financially than saving a few hundred or few $1,000s. So back then, what I would think is like, and I had to sit there waiting for my luggage. Again, I obsess over saving every minute of my life. I don't like wasting time. I hate wasting time.
I can't tell.
I'm obsessed in making the most out of every minute of my life. It used to be more extreme. It used to be like a disease. Now it's a bit more realistic, a bit more. But what I would think before is like, I'm waiting for my suitcase. I usually travel with someone, my assistant, but they couldn't come because of COVID. But I would be like, this is not right. There's something wrong. I need to be on a private jet. I would immediately start getting annoyed. Why I'm not on a private jet? I would have been able to work more comfortable, save more time. Now, I'm thinking, I think that I'm like, cool, we're good to have a private jet. But thankfully, look where I was before I almost went bankrupt. And here I am now, at least affording first class, affording to fly every week somewhere. Look at the great meeting I had. So I start shifting it directly. So when I'm feeling too egoistic, not egoistic, too...
it's almost materialistic.
Materialistic, but also no, it's more envious. When I start feeling envious, immediately I have to go back to humility and putting myself in that position and thinking about the people. And I might even take watching a few videos of people that are unfortunate. And I went through a phase where I was really down because I had an issue. I won't go into detail, but I was really down. Like, I don't usually feel down. It's very rare. I had my momentum shut down. And I started looking at what people were, no joke, it was like a few months ago, I started watching survival videos of people stuck in the mountain, stuck in the forest, almost dying, dehydrated, stuff. I'm like, or helicopter crash and stuff, and surviving was entertaining. But in my mind, I'm like, look at me, I'm sleeping in a warm bed. I'm alive, I got all my arms, I got a beautiful girl next to me. So it changes. When I'm envious, I focus on humility. Now, when I get too comfortable, which rarely happens, luckily I don't have to do that. But if I do get too comfortable, and it does happen actually, it does happen when I'm in a position, I'm like, hey, I don't need one, I'm fine here. It's a good place to be. But then I go, and I start looking at people, I go to LA, or I go to Monaco, or I go somewhere where like, it's a whole different level of success. It's a whole different, like, I can't have it all, I don't own an island. And then that gives me that push that I need. So I'm always trying to balance it, because there's a study done on billionaires, and the most common characteristic is they're not binary. They balance everything mentally. There's nothing black and white. It's always somewhere in the middle. And when you realize that, you start to understand. You start to take every bit of feedback differently.
That's critical information that you just said. The balance, it's a balance. It's not black and white, and I think that's probably one of the best hacks and that people can look at is because people too often see success and failure as it's success and failure, and there's not that middle ground of being able to figure out how you can move. And you earlier talked about creating a restaurant at this time was a bad choice. During the pandemic was a bad choice, but as long as you pivoted right, you could actually make some money. When you founded, the Athena Capital, when you founded Athena Capital Group, what was the mindset behind that to be able to push that farther forward and kind of leverage and help the public to get farther along?
Yeah, so every business will have a different way of approaching it. So when in e-com, for example, it was more direct to consumer. It was like getting the right ad, getting the right messaging through. It's more quantity over quality. Like we're selling a $300 product. That's my e-com products. Now, if you go to Athena Capital, for example, Athena Capital is one of my agencies. That one takes companies public. So it does a lot of SPACs, a lot of direct listings. So with that one, it's a much higher. Every deal size is like $500,000-600K. So it is a lot more. It's more relationship building. And I learned one thing there that I didn't know for years, and I wish I knew that before. Relationships are so important, and reputation. It's not just cheesy. It's not a cheesy statement.
That's a great statement.
So true. I used to take it as cheesy, like reputation. I don't think it's that important. It is so important, especially when you start going to the B2B and the corporate world. Yes. It is key. It is key. So I learned that the hard way, definitely the hard way.
And how did you change that though? How were you able to change from, like, when you said you learned that the hard way? You obviously had to change something to be able to get to that better B2B.
I saw like one relationship I kept from so if you look at IBC, the company that got scammed, the person that scammed me, the one that taking the call, he's also divorcing and his ex-wife's taking him to court. He has a job, not a business. His business failed. His other business, he's having issues with them. So he didn't care about his reputation. I did right by everyone. And one person from the IBC days, his name is Jason Coles, contacted me, brought me to a company called North Equities. So North Equities is probably the biggest agency that blows up publicly listed companies. It does really well at just blowing them up. So he brought me in, and that led to Athena Capital, which is the one that takes companies public. And then that led, he's the reason I'm the CEO of NFT Tech and the majority shareholder at the moment, or one of the three of us are majority shareholders. So he's the reason I'm there, because I maintain that relationship, and then my reputation that I'm always protecting is opening so many doors for me, because people start to know me. When you go to that corporate world, I think personal reputation doesn't matter for B2C as much, because no one, when you buy, like if you look at the chair you're sitting on now, you probably don't know who's the face behind that brand. Right. But if I mention to you Mark Cuban, you know who that is. So if the owner of the company that you bought your chair from goes and does something really wrong or murders someone, I don't think you'll care much. But if Mark Cuban murders someone, I don't think you'd want to do business with Mark Cuban. Well,
that's crazy.
That's how the corporate investment world works. In that world, reputation is everything. In the e-com world, not many people care about your personal reputation, because they just care about the product.
Wow. Well, hey, I greatly appreciate you coming on today, Mario. People need to go to wearegrowthhackers.com and find out more. I end my podcast the same way. I have 3 questions that I'll ask you. I don't give them to you before, because I like to have people sweat a little bit. It's not going to be that hard for you after all the things that you gave me. So first question, you ready?
Tell me.
All right. If you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self, you're not that old right now, but if you could go back and tell your 18-year-old self one thing, what would it be?
I'll choose a sexy answer and a boring answer. All
right, I like it.
The sexy answer will be do good, do it consistently, and be patient.
Yeah, I like that.
That's the sexy answer.
Yep.
The boring answer is watch the video by Bill Gross. Google Bill Gross TED and watch that video at least every 3 months.
I love it. That's not boring. That's good advice. All right, here's your second question. So, with a lot of people going through challenges, right now, and they'll continue to go through challenges, what is 2 things that you would say that they should implement in their lives every single day to continue to move forward, or to start moving forward if they haven't been?
So is that for people that are struggling in life?
Yeah.
And how to keep moving forward? Okay. I'll tell them to do one thing. I'll simplify it.
Yeah.
Read the book, okay. So that's one thing. I might add one more thing to it. But that one thing is read the book, The Obstacle is the Way, by Ryan Holiday. It's around Stoicism. It's a very short book, the book that I've recommended the most. If you're going through hardship, that mindset, and I know mindset is an overused word, but this mindset will make the difference.
Awesome. I love that. All right, this last one's going to be fun. I have no idea who you're going to pick. So if you could sit down and have coffee at a firehouse table. So in other words, you could ask any question and it's answered. You can have as many questions as possible with 3 different people. They can be deceased or alive. Who would they be and why?
Okay, I'm not going to give specific names because I can't think of any names. So
okay.
I would go with, I might give one name actually, but I'd go with a really happy, really poor person in a third world country.
Oh, wow.
So that would be the first person I'd want to talk to, because that gives you an answer about real happiness. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'd want to talk with probably the smartest person on the planet to help me understand the human brain. So I can just ask all the questions and I know what once you understand the human brain, you know what you go through. Like when you're sitting there angry at someone, or when you're crying, or when you're feeling down, etc., you know why. Because you're human, and you got to understand how the human brain thinks. So that's the second thing. And then the second person. And the third person, I'd like to meet someone with absolute power. Someone with, like, Putin will be a good example, or the Chinese president, Xi Jinping, whatever it is, I keep forgetting his name. Xi Jinping, I think it is. So I always meet them because I'm curious to know how it feels to have absolute power. But if for the audience, my answer, the first two people are significantly more important, because obviously the first one helps you understand happiness, but the second one's even more important, because the first person will tell you what brings them happiness, because what brings them happiness could be different for everyone else. I'll end it with this. Taking advice from different people is good as long as you first do personality tests and understand yourself, because the advice varies based on the person. I understand myself. I don't like business. I like momentum and growth, whether it's business or I travel the world dancing. So that gives you momentum and growth. Always moving forward. So I know that any advice that helps fulfill those things is good advice for me. If I go out there and say, isolate yourself in the forest and read a book every day, like Bill Gates did, and that would not be something that will go well with me. But if it says travel the world while listening to a podcast, well, I do this every day. So understand yourself. Then you can talk to the poor person in third world country. Then you can talk to the cognitive biased person, the intelligent person. Then you can talk to a leader, because then you can understand, hear their advice, and then see how it relates to you and your personality. I don't want to digress or go too far, but that'll be my answer.
Mario, I should have expected nothing less than that kind of an answer, because that was amazing. I greatly appreciate it, Mario. Make sure you go to the website, wearegrowthhackers.com. Mario, thank you so much for giving us your time today.
Man, take care.
Thanks for listening and supporting the Forged in the Fires podcast with Fireman Rob. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast, and please share this episode with a friend or family. To find out more about Fireman Rob or reach out about a question, go to www.firemanrob.com. Until next time, live your life forged in the fires.